Does this sound familiar?
I told you. What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you? 'Cause I told you.
How about this?
Trixie does not do the giggly-headed, nail-painting, hair-braiding, boy-liking, light popcorn-nibbling flim-flam.
It's a trope that's so ubiquitous that it affects our everyday expectation of how Black women should act, be they real or fictional. She's known for her snaps, her neck-turning, her anger, her pointed, witty commentary, and that over-the-top accent.
Now, if I write my name on a bag of Funyuns, them ain't your Funyuns, those Foxy Funyuns.
Y'all already know what I'm talking about. It's the Sassy Black Woman. Once you become aware of it, it slaps you in the face almost every time you turn on the television. And when I say every time, I mean every time.
Honey, you mean Hercules.
Now, could you please get out the way? You're blocking the marshmallow mega squares.
You can't spell America without Erica.
Some characters are obvious perpetrators of the trope, while others are more subtle. Sometimes a character only exhibits a few sassy behaviors, but it can still be weird or uncomfortable, especially if the character otherwise wouldn't act like that. I'll be focusing mostly on animated media because that's what I grew up watching and where the focus of my channel lies. But you'll see live action examples sprinkled in here too, because this trope is everywhere. And the weirdest part of all of this, despite the name of this video, these clips will not just be of Black women.
I'm Grunkle Stan!
You love with Loquisha.
Honey, it was ruined when she bought it.
Yikes. So what is this trope? Where did it start? Why exactly is it so harmful? And will we ever escape it? Hold up. I feel a video essay coming on. My name is Angel Manson, and this is Infodump. So, what is the Sassy Black Woman? According to the Jim Crow Museum, she is tart-tongued and emasculating, one hand on the hip and the other pointing and jabbing, violently, rhythmically rocking her head. Y'all know what I'm talking about. She's known for her anger, her bitter attitude, and not taking shit from nobody. She is a version of the Sapphire caricature. Now, the Sapphire is just one of 3 common stereotypes that Black women in the United States have been victim to, both in real life and in American media. Those stereotypes include the mammy, the paternal or maid-like, the Jezebel, the over-sexualized, and the Sapphire, the loud, angry, and sharp-tongued. If you'd like to learn more about these stereotypes and examples of them throughout American media, I urge you to open a new tab and watch Al Jazeera's video on the topic. I do want to hit a few points from Al Jazeera's video regardless. First of all, these caricatures have existed for centuries and have a lot of history. These are not modern phenomena, nor recently invented. So y'all can't blame this one on the woke left, okay baby? Second, the purpose of these caricatures, like all stereotypes, is to dehumanize marginalized people in order to justify their mockery and abuse. In the context of Black people in the US, as Al Jazeera's video states, stereotypes were used to commodify Black bodies and justify slavery. For example, if the Jezebel stereotype was true, then it was fine for Black women to be sexualized in the eyes of white men. If the mammy stereotype was true, then it was okay to have Black female slaves take care of your little white babies. And if the Sapphire was true, or is true today, then that means Black women are sassy, mean, and unruly. They're beasts that must be tamed and mollified, lest they be dangerous to the male and or unmelanated. Now back to defining the Sapphire, also known as the angry or sassy Black woman. The caricature was named after an eponymous character from the show Amos and Andy. The show ran from 1928 to 1960, starting as a radio show before it came to television. The radio version was portrayed by 2 white actors putting on stereotypical Black accents and mocking Black behavior, aka a minstrel show. And though the television show upgraded to an all-Black cast, it could not escape its origins in caricature and mockery, which you'll notice is a running theme for later fictional depictions of Black women. The origins of the trope, however, go back even further. In the 1800s, the Sapphire emerged as an evolution of the mammy stereotype. She was a Black woman who ran her home with an iron fist, emasculated her Black husband, and berated her children. Emasculating other Black men was a core part of the Sapphire trope, as evidenced by Amos and Andy and other Black sitcoms that would follow.
Listen here, George Stevens, I just spoke to the doctor. There ain't a thing wrong with you except overeating.
Another key part of the Sapphire caricature is the ironic illusion that it breaks racial norms. These characters aren't oppressed. They're strong, defiant, and allowed to poke fun at their oppressors. See, she's loose. She's dabbing her fingers. She's don't worry about her. She's good. Per the Jim Crow Museum, during the Jim Crow period, when real black people were often beaten, jailed, or killed for arguing with white people, fictional mammies were allowed to pretend chastise white people, including men. This implication lasts to this day, as people often see a sassy black woman and mistake her for being strong or independent. They see it as a humorous yet positive depiction. As a matter of fact, the ideas of strength and sassiness coalesce to the point that it can be hard to distinguish between representation and mockery. For example, take the once popular meme, "I'm a strong, independent black woman who don't need no man." I'm not doing the accent, y'all already know what I'm talking about. It's in the name. This isn't a racist stereotype because it's not saying anything bad about her. She's strong and independent. Yay, we did it. We did it, Joe. The last component to tie this all together is humor and mockery. The sassy black woman encourages people to look at her anger, her irrationality, and her over-the-top mannerisms as a source of humor. If you tie the thread from slavery to minstrelsy to the birth of American entertainment, it's not hard to see the connection forming. Blackness made into a joke. All of these aspects have led to an incredibly pervasive trope that has evolved like a chameleon throughout the centuries. One that could be extremely obvious, but also one that could be so evasive it could be hard to pin down. Nonetheless, the result is clear. Black women are angry, sassy, and worthy of ridicule. So how has this trope evolved in the modern day, particularly in kids' media?
We'll be right back. On Nick.
Is everyone all right?
Do I look like I'm all right? Do you not see a chicken glued to my butt?
And I'm a rooster.
Now, back to the show.
The sassy black woman trope has unfortunately become a staple of American television, especially cartoons. And back in the early 2000s, it was inescapable. It makes sense. This was an era when media was becoming interested in the idea of representation, but said representation was painfully flawed. It was not only common, but expected for animated black women to fall into the sassy trope. And look, I don't mean to undermine the iconography of some of your favorite characters, they're some of mine too. I still wish Lashana won, like damn. But outside of their individual personalities, each of these examples slip into the trope. Much like how the Sapphire of old emasculated black men, the sassy black woman in animated media often pokes fun at the usually male protagonist. This may be written as an empowering detail, but it's still a source of humor. They'll tell it like it is and get the protagonist out of a tough spot. They speak in a stereotypically black way that is often totally unlike the rest of the cast. It's not uncommon for them to have a pulse on the protagonist's love interest and give them much needed romantic advice, echoing the hints of the Jezebel stereotype.
Kim, you are a strong, independent woman. Any brother afraid of that is not worthy of your time.
Y'all, I just cannot emphasize enough how pervasive this trope was, especially in the 2000s, and how it's only evolved from there. Some of the first and most iconic black female characters of the time during my generation's development were walking stereotypes.
Not losing this challenge because you got your hair did, you spoiled little daddy's girl.
It's no wonder that this trope still persists into modern day cartoons. And these characters come with all sorts of other microaggressions, such as stereotypically black names like Lashana, Latanya, Monique, and Honey.
You tell me what my suit is, woman! We are talking about the greater good!
Greater good? I am your wife! I'm the greatest good you are ever gonna get!
They often play supporting roles, are the token black friend of the main cast, or are the black best friend of the main character. Another trope that reduces black characters as sidekicks meant to cheer on the white protagonist. Some characters voiced by black women will be depicted as large or overbearing, such as Mammy Two Shoes in the original Tom and Jerry shorts, yes. Mammy Two Shoes. Talia from Hercules, or Sugar Mama from the Proud Family. Are we still seeing the pattern with the names here? Like, none of these names are individually wrong on their own. It's the pattern for me. It's the pattern. This also extends to animals voiced by black women, such as a whale in Flapjack.
Just what do you think you're doing? Well, don't you talk back to me!
Or a hippopotamus in Madagascar, and My Gym Partner's a monkey. It's not uncommon for their size to be juxtaposed with a flirty personality, meant to poke humor at their misplaced confidence, because fat people can't be hot or confident, I guess. Characters that sound unmistakably black are sometimes voiced by a non-black person putting on a black accent, or white characters will be given the voice of a black woman as a gag.
Any of you kids seen my girdle? Where my girdle at?
What's the joke here exactly? Quickly, because if I put my CRT cap on real quick, I can write a mean dissertation on how Grunkle Stan and every white man who's ever feigned black femininity in front of a camera are giving minstrelsy. I'm talking Amos and Andy, radio version. Fun fact, this version of Grunkle Stan was voiced by Gray Delisle, who, while iconic, is not black. We literally don't have time to unpack it all, so I gotta move on. We don't have the time. Sometimes they only reflect certain aspects of said trope, or struggle with their own unique stereotypes, or are such fun characters that you almost want to forgive them of the trope entirely because they're like the coolest design you've ever seen. April, why are you so cool? Damn it.
Mwah.
Sometimes people treat that character as if they were a sassy black woman when in fact they are far from it. Consider this article whose URL title reads 15 swag black female characters, though when you click on it the title reads memorable black female characters. I wonder why they changed that one. Now I don't want to put this article on blast or anything, but unfortunately it is a great example of how this trope informs how black female characters are viewed. Here are some words used to describe these characters. Let's see if you can find a pattern. Confidence, boldness, self-assurance, sass, no nonsense, seductive, independent, savvy, quick wit, and of course, swag. None of these traits are inherently bad, but in the broader context of this trope, it paints an oddly specific picture. If I help you understand anything here today, I want it to be the depth of how pervasive this trope is, how it has evolved from the sapphire trope in the 1800s into the sassy, spunky, independent stereotype that litters our modern day media, how it affects our view on black women altogether, and there are many.
Penny Forehead Proud was locked in a room with Myron Lewinsky.
This ain't your stove. This ain't your blood.
Many.
How much ointment do you think I have? Child, don't you threaten me with a good time.
Walk your sorry butt home.
And then telling the truth to your brand new boyfriend before your best friend / cousin. Put a ring on it.
Many more examples that I just don't know of, didn't research, or didn't include. Now, I've identified the trope and touched on its harms, but let's really get into it. Why is this trope so harmful?
We'll be right back on Nick.
Hi, Donnie. You have 9 seconds to tell me why you just broke my door.
Someone stole Donnie's turtle tank.
Oh, I see. So as your best friend, you naturally suspect me?
She gets it.
Oh, don't give me that. You're the only one who could have taken it.
3, 2, 1.
Now back to the show on Nick.
I remember being maybe 14 and realizing that I hadn't drawn many black women in my short career as a teenage artist. And I thought, I'm gonna draw one right now. Now, I won't show the image because it's embarrassing, but I will unfortunately describe it. It's the image of a chubby black woman dressed in vivids with bright red lipstick and hoop earrings. Her eyebrow is cocked, hand on her hips, legs out, smirking at the camera, and I literally titled it Sassy Black Girl. So obviously based on the name, I was aware of the trope and stereotype on some level, but just as obviously, I was not quite aware of the harms of it. In fact, I remember thinking, well, this character doesn't fall into the trope. I just drew a black woman who I'd seen in any cartoon. Can I get a yikes on the board? Thank you. I didn't question what I'd drawn until one day my mom took a look at it and she said something along the lines of, "Is that how you see me?" And that's just one of many well-needed times I was humbled by a woman in my life. The point I'm trying to make is that these stereotypes are insidious. They affect us, be it consciously or not, and color our vision of the world and the people in it. If I had not been challenged by my mother or the women in my life, I could have grown up to continue to perpetuate the stereotype in the art that I make now. Tropes like these are repeated over and over until they firmly nestle into the cultural psyche and are normalized. Now, I can already see people typing in the comments, defending some of the characters in this video. She's not a stereotype. There's so much more to her character than that. The show isn't racist. There is a black person on the cast or in the writer's room. And look, I hear you. I'm not saying these characters are all bad or don't have any dimension to them. Many of these characters I'm showing are not necessarily problematic or misogynist or racist. Some of them are. But I'm simply using them as an example to showcase a larger context, okay? The small and the large. The small. As soon as I go off script, I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. The small and the large. The small and the large. But the writers are good people. They aren't racist. Look, I agree. And that's the problem, y'all. The problem being that these writers probably weren't even aware of what they were doing. They wrote these characters just because they'd seen one like it before, and it becomes a cycle. The more people write it, the more you see it. The more you see it, the more you expect to see it, and the more likely you or others will write it in the future, so on and so forth. It paints our image of what black female characters, and by extension black women, should be. It uses traits of blackness as a source of humor, and normalizes laughing at those aspects of blackness. And as I identify in the beginning of this video, that's rooted in minstrelsy. There's one more layer here that I've yet to unpack, and it's how this stereotype bleeds off the television screen and affects black women in real life. Here's the Jim Crow Museum on the matter. The sapphire caricature, or the angry black woman stereotype, is a social control mechanism that is employed to punish black women who violate the societal norms that encourage them to be passive, servile, non-threatening, and unseen. The sapphire name is slur, insult, and a label designed to silence dissent and critique. It's not at all uncommon for black women at school or in the workplace to be told they look angry or are acting angry, that they should calm down, or that they're being disruptive by simply speaking their mind. I've seen this, I've heard this, I've read this. It happens every day, y'all. I'm getting riled up. This is what's happening. The microphone flying. Tropes like these exacerbate the stereotype that black women are perpetually angry, and that anger somehow poses a threat to other people. The end result? Black women are taught to be smaller versions of themselves, lest they become like a sapphire. And our media takes it one step further, transforming the fear of a black woman's anger into a joke. Now this might seem counterintuitive, but it's to the same effect. Make sure black women are not taken seriously and therefore left unheard. It's a formula that's been seen for literally a century now. Black woman speaks, cue laugh track.
Fine chance. Do you know what the butcher told me our credit rating is?
What?
Triple Z.
Triple Z. I never heard that one before.
It means don't trust him even if he pays cash.
Well, I brought the whole thing up.
Aren't you glad?
You watching, Nick? Aren't you glad? You watching, Nick?
Look, I need your help, all right?
You want to borrow my ointment?
No. Look, I have 75 people at my house.
How much ointment do you think I have?
Now back to the show on Nick.
It's worth noting that this trope affects black female actresses as well. In TV, media, and theater, it's not unheard of for black women to be told to talk with more sass, more attitude, or with more of an urban twang. Regardless of whether or not that type of voice fits the actress or the character. Here's a clip of Nicole Byer and Laverne Cox on the matter.
Allegedly, a casting director asked you to talk more black at one point.
Allegedly.
Like, I find this so hard to believe.
Usually they say sassy, more street, more urban. They'll go, can you wiggle your neck a little bit? She was like, can you be blacker? And I was like, I was just playing a fairy.
It can also, in my opinion, pigeonhole black actresses into portraying angry or sassy black women roles, as they are often cast in these roles over and over. I emphasize my opinion because I haven't heard the specific actresses I'm about to name talk about this issue, or whether it's an issue at all. Look, I just think it's an interesting observation, especially in the context of the Nicole Byer clip. Take Roz Ryan, who's played 4 of the 20-something characters I pulled for this list. Bubby from Flapjack, Talia from Hercules, and most recently Cake the Cat in Adventure Time. I also have to name Cree Summer, who was basically the voice for every iconic black female character in our favorite shows. Of those, I'd say 3 obviously fall into the trope. Foxy Love from Drawn Together, Number 5 from The Kids Next Door, and LaTanya from My Gym Partner's a Monkey. I'm sure there are more, but of the list of characters I remember Cree Summer in, I couldn't find moments that were sassy so much as her adding her own spin on an innocuous line. But worse, even when her characters don't fall into the trope, people still see them as sassy. For instance, I wouldn't say that Valerie from Danny Phantom falls into the trope, yet she's posed like this in her character shot. Or take Cleo from Clifford. Yes, the poodle dog. On her wiki page, she is described as a sassy troublemaker. I would not call her that. My point is, I can't help but wonder if this trope has affected the roles that certain actresses have gained over the years, especially in the late 90s and early 2000s. I have to wonder if they ever cast by white directors because they sounded the part. Or I wonder if, like Nicole Byer, they were ever asked to be blacker. But again, that's just a pattern I notice, okay? A theory. A black theory. Thanks for watching. Now, if you disagree with any of the observations I've made or the characters I picked and you're not black, keep it to yourself. I don't give a But if you disagree and you're black or a black woman, or you're not black but you actually want to engage in kind, good faith discussion, that's the type of discussion I want, let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts or how I might correct myself in the future, because accountability is sexy. So where does that leave us? I don't know. This has to stop. Stop writing this into your stories. Just stop. I don't know. For real though. The solution with this trope is the same as with any other stereotype. 1, accept your unconscious bias. 2, make intended efforts to subvert the trope. And 3, include other characters of the same race or background that exhibit positive traits to counterbalance. So firstly, when I write my own black female characters, I recognize my own unconscious bias. On purpose or not, I'm likely to create characters that fall into tropes because that's what I've seen the most of. I have to recognize that in the first place so I can have an open mind and make portrayals that everyone can love. Secondly, I make sure to research any tropes or stereotypes that might apply to my characters and intentionally avoid them. So for instance, I write a webcomic. I promise this will be short. Just let me talk about my work for 2 seconds. It stars a little black girl, and I knew from the start that I wanted to avoid her being labeled as angry or sassy in any way. To be fair, she's a fun, pink-loving 11-year-old girl, so it wasn't super hard, but little girls are not at all exempt from this trope. So I avoided hallmarks of the sassy black girl, such as her being fundamentally cynical or sarcastic. She doesn't bob her head and move her finger around and shit. Mind you, she still gets angry, a lot actually, but it's not stereotypical or humorous. It's sincere and understandable. She's still witty and has comebacks from time to time, but they're not cutting, sarcastic remarks told with a hand on her hips. Most importantly, those are not her most important traits. I'd first describe her as kind, courageous, curious, funny, impulsive, and 1,000 other words before I'd ever say sassy. My last point is one that's often missed. Include other characters of the same background to counterbalance any stereotypes you may accidentally include. Craig of the Creek is a fantastic example of this. It has such a huge cast of characters that even if I describe one black woman in it to be sassy, there's another 2 or 3 or 4 that have completely different traits that balance it all out. The show avoids black stereotypes by showing a huge range of blackness. In my opinion, these are models any writer should take for any portrayal of a marginalized identity. Y'all, I so wish I had a giant list of animated black women that successfully subvert this trope, but I only have a few I'd personally recommend. Take characters like Lunella Lafayette from Moon Girl, Grace from Infinity Train, and Wolf from Kipo. Sure, these characters can be witty or angry or sarcastic, but it doesn't define them. The depth of their characters beat the trope by a long shot. It also helps that they're all main characters. Black girl magic. I say the list is short because though I'll show several examples I didn't name just now, I hesitate to call them great representation. These characters are often in supporting roles or have their own unique problems that make me hesitate to say they're examples of good representation. Luz from the Owl House and Kipo from Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beast, for instance, are fantastic black female protagonists who do not fall into the trope, but they also do not have any visibly black features. At all. In fact, this might be your first time finding out that both these characters are canonically half black. And as far as beating negative stereotypes, a character's proximity to blackness is an important part of subverting black tropes. It's visibly black and often dark-skinned women that are victims of this trope. So the TLDR is that we are in desperate need of more black women, period. But specifically in our media, and especially in animated media. The president is full of stereotype, with a history rooted in minstrelsy and a present marked by rhythmic head bobbing and oh no you didn't. The answer, I'm afraid, is to simply write more black women. To write them and treat them as full humans, both on the page and in real life. Be aware of who and what you're laughing at. I didn't even touch on digital minstrelsy in the age of social media, partly because some anti-SJW type loses their fucking mind every time someone mentions the word digital minstrelsy. But ask yourself why some of your favorite GIFs or funny videos are of black people, specifically black women. It's not necessarily wrong or racist. You're okay, Candace girl. Breathe. Breathe. But reflecting on this would be a great exercise in introspection. Lastly, I challenge you to keep an eye out for this trope in the media you watch, because I guarantee you'll find it somewhere, even if only partly. And I encourage you to call out this trope if you see it, be it online or to the people you're watching it with. I think the future for animation is bright, but it starts with recognizing its ugly ass history. So that's all I got for you today, y'all. Thanks for watching my first My first video essay. Stay kind, stay informed, and thanks for listening to me, Infodump. Bye-bye.
And she was like, be as black as you can be. If you go too black, I'll bring you back.
Did you ever go too black and need to be pulled back?
She never had to pull me back.
Video essays are hard.